Older than time's beginning, beyond the grasp of consciousness, the Necron race conquered the stars, seized immortality, and paid the price. When the war in heaven ended, when the Old Ones fell and the Ceton were shattered, the victorious Necrons entered their tombs to await an age when the galaxy would be theirs again. Trillions of metallic bodies, once flesh, now living metal, slumbered in perfect stasis. When this ancient race, imprisoned in metal bodies by the Cetan's lies, entered the Great Sleep, one lord was lost. Maynos Thep, a mighty overlord of the Sautekh Dynasty, bearer of the Royal Crescent, executor of the World Scourge campaign, a loyal servant to Sautekh, the Silent King himself. During the last Great War, as the stars themselves were weaponized against reality, he was lost in a galactic storm, separated from his fleet. The quantum disturbance tore his ship from real space, casting him beyond the boundaries of the known galaxy. The story of this Necron Lord, forgotten by the cosmos, begins with a decision that would forever change the universe. A decision born from the most unlikely of emotions for a soulless machine, loneliness. In the darkness of the 60th millennium, Maynos Thep's vessel drifted in the void of an unknown region of space. The chronosensors aboard his damaged craft had measured the passage of 60 million years since the biotransference. The quantum stabilizers that had once kept his consciousness perfectly aligned were beginning to degrade after eons of isolation. His victory in the C'tan's final war was now a distant memory, recorded in data engrams that replayed with perfect clarity, yet somehow felt hollow, as if belonging to another being entirely. The dynasty he had served with such distinction, the Sautekh, most powerful of all Necron houses, had entered the Great Sleep following the Silent King's final orders, yet Maynos remained awake, a solitary sentinel drifting through an indifferent cosmos. The few warriors and constructs aboard his vessel had been deactivated to conserve power, leaving him truly alone with nothing but the ship's systems for company.
The navigation systems fail to recognize any stellar formations. The Gauss drives operate at minimum capacity. I calculate 98.7% probability that I've drifted beyond the boundaries of charted space. The probability of rendezvous with any Necron dynasty is negligible. Power reserves sufficient for 7.2 million years at current consumption rates. I have time. Too much time.
Maynos was once a valued servant of the Skenzath Huzarak, the strategist of eternity, until he witnessed the shattering of the war god. The same Cetan who had promised the Necrontyr liberation from their short, painful lives had been torn apart by those they betrayed. The Deceiver, the Nightbringer, the Outsider, the Void Dragon, all the star gods had been broken into shards, their power diminished but never truly destroyed. The Necrons had been slaves once, their minds and souls traded for immortal bodies in the cruel biotransference. The flesh prisons of their cancerous forms had been abandoned for necrodermis, living metal that would never age, never sicken, never die. But immortality had come at the cost of their humanity, their emotions dulled, their souls consumed by the C'tan. Yet in their eternal metal forms, they had found the strength to rebel against their masters.
Zathuzarak, this is your final calculation. For the living metal you gave us, we thank you. For the immortality you promised, we repay you with imprisonment. The Necrontyr you consumed are gone forever, but the Necrons you created shall rule for eternity without your dominion. Your essence shall be contained, your consciousness fragmented, your power harnessed, but never again free.
Ironically, now he too was lost, just like the fragments of his master. His ship's damaged navicomps had sent him beyond known space to an unmapped region. The quantum displacement had cast him into a pocket of reality that existed parallel to the main galaxy, separated by barriers of dark matter and twisted space-time. Here, he discovered a pocket galaxy hidden by dark matter clouds where no known race had ever reached.
Curious. These stars show evidence of artificial arrangement. The probability of natural formation in this pattern is infinitesimal. Spectral analysis indicates star types inconsistent with standard stellar evolution. This entire region appears to have been engineered. But by whom? The Old Ones. Some other race lost to time. The stellar configuration predates even Necron astronomical records.
Although Maynos' necrodermis body lacked a soul gauge, he felt the weight of loneliness. The silent tomb that was his ship echoed with emptiness. The quantum processors that comprised his consciousness were designed to operate in conjunction with others of his kind. Phalanxes of warriors, councils of lords, the hierarchical structure of dynasty and court. Isolation had created anomalies in his thought patterns, deviations that would have been corrected through regular interaction with the command protocols of his dynasty. During his isolation that would last billions of years, he began recording his thoughts in the ship's logs, a practice unnecessary for a being with perfect recall, yet somehow comforting in its methodical routine.
Log entry 2, 7, 8, 9, 3. The silence of the void grows louder each cycle. My dynasty sleeps, waiting for the great awakening. But I drift, outside the calculations of the Silent King. Is this freedom or exile? The command protocols still function, but without purpose. I find myself contemplating concepts that should be beyond me. Loneliness, purpose, creation. I have begun to experience anomalous thought patterns. Memory engrams replay with unexpected frequency. I find myself calculating the probabilities of events that have no logical relevance to my situation. I have initiated 17 complete self-diagnostics. No malfunction detected. Yet something has changed within my consciousness matrix. Perhaps isolation itself is the anomaly for which my systems cannot compensate.
After centuries of scanning the pocket galaxy, Maynos discovered something that defied even his ancient understanding, a world bearing the marks of a civilization that predated even the Necron tier. A planet where the laws of reality seemed thin, where causality itself appeared to bend around structures of impossible geometry. The world had been dead for eons, its atmosphere stripped away by some ancient cataclysm, its surface scarred by weapons beyond even Necron comprehension. Yet beneath the devastation, Maynos detected energy signatures, faint pulses of power from deep within the planet's crust. Something still functioned in the ruins of this forgotten world.
Spectral analysis complete. The energy signatures do not match any known technological profile. Not Old One, not Satan, not Eldari, not any race recorded in Necron tier archives. This world contains knowledge previously unknown to the dynasties. I shall investigate personally.
After 60 million years of isolation, Maynos had discovered something new, a mystery to unravel, a puzzle worthy of his ancient intellect. Perhaps here, in this dead world, orbiting a forgotten star, he would find something to fill the void that had grown within his consciousness. Part 2. The idea of creating a companion. The laboratory world held secrets that even the ancient Necrons would find fascinating. Devices of unfathomable purpose, forgotten technologies of species long extinct. As Maynos and his warriors explored the ruins, they encountered architecture that defied physical laws, spaces that were larger inside than outside, corridors that looped back on themselves through impossible twists in space-time. Deep beneath the surface, accessed through spiraling passages carved into reality itself, Maynos discovered what appeared to be a vast research complex. The purpose of this facility would change everything he understood about life itself.
These structures, they contain technologies even the cryptex of solemnness would covet. The bioforge chambers suggest capability beyond what we achieved before the Great Sleep. The beings who built this facility understood the fundamental codes of life itself, manipulating them with precision that exceeds even the capabilities of the Old Ones. Fascinating. These specimens represent evolutionary paths not documented in any Necron archive. Some show characteristics that would later emerge in known species, yet these samples predate those species by billions of years. This facility appears to have been engaged in paleogenetic engineering on a scale beyond comprehension.
The isolation had begun to affect Maynos' logical protocols as he explored the ancient laboratory. Studying its secrets and cataloging its wonders, the endless silence of space had created what humans might call longing. A feeling that should have been stripped away during biotransference, yet persisted as a ghost in his mechanical systems.
Emotion subroutines should have been eliminated in the forges of biotransference, yet I experience echoes. Fascinating. The Cetan were not as thorough as they claim, or perhaps 60 million years of isolation has corrupted my programming. I detect anomalous activity in my consciousness matrix when contemplating continued isolation. The closest analog in Necrontier, neurological terms, would be melancholy.
The laboratory contained more than preserved specimens. Within its deepest chambers, Maynos discovered active bioforges, machines designed to create and modify life itself. These devices had continued to function long after their creators had vanished, running automated programs of incomprehensible purpose. As he studied these machines, interfacing his Necron technology with the ancient systems, Maynos began to understand their operation. The knowledge awakened something within him, a possibility he had never considered during all his millions of years of existence.
These bioforges contain template patterns for thousands of species, some extinct, some that never existed in our galaxy. The beings who created this facility were experimenting with life itself, crafting new forms according to specific parameters. The technology is compatible with necrodermis interfaces. I could adapt it, utilize it, create.
Perhaps it was a glitch in his command matrix, or perhaps the Catan had never truly removed all emotion from the Necrons, merely suppressed it beneath layers of programming. The countless millennia of isolation had eroded those suppressions, allowing ancient feelings to resurface in distorted, mechanical forms. Either way, Maynos made a decision that would echo through eternity.
If I cannot return to my dynasty, I shall create one anew, not of metal, but of flesh, guided by superior intelligence. A new form of life, bound to my will, yet capable of independent thought. A companion. The biotransference stripped us of our organic nature, but perhaps organic life can be infused with the benefits of necrodermis without the flaws of either.
Using his knowledge of Skan, granted biomancy and the forgotten sciences of this dead race, Maynos began work on what no Necron had ever attempted, creating new life not to serve or to harvest, but as a companion to share the endless void. He dismissed his warrior escorts, sending them back to the ship. This work would be his alone, free from the judgment of his kind. For what would be centuries in human terms, Maynos labored. He explored the surrounding planets in the system, gathering biological samples from primitive life forms that had evolved in isolation. He studied the ancient records of the laboratory, deciphering techniques for genetic manipulation that had been lost since before the War in Heaven. And most importantly, he analyzed his own necrodermis, understanding how living metal could be melded with organic tissue.
Log entry 51620. I have harvested biological material from 17 worlds in this pocket galaxy. None contained sentient life, merely the building blocks. Combined with a fragment of my own living metal, I shall create something unique. The Silent King would call this heresy. Perhaps that is why I continue. The codes of conduct that bound the dynasties seem distant now, irrelevant in this isolated realm. I find myself liberated. The bioforge technologies allow for unprecedented control over genetic expression. I have created rudimentary organisms that incorporate necrodermis components at the cellular level. These creatures possess the self-repair capabilities of living metal while maintaining organic adaptation potential. Early specimens show promise but lack cohesion. The key challenge remains creating a consciousness sophisticated enough to be worthy of companionship, yet stable enough to persist across multiple biological forms.
What Maynos could not have known was that his actions mirrored those of the Old Ones, the ancient enemies of the Necron tier, who had created entire races through their mastery of life itself. In his isolation, he had become that which his kind had once despised, a creator. But unlike the Old Ones, who had crafted the Eldari and the Krork with specific purposes in mind, Maynos sought something more profound, an equal, a being that could understand the weight of eternity.
The shard of my consciousness will serve as a template. Not a copy, but a foundation upon which a new form of intelligence can develop. It will share certain characteristics with me: analytical ability, memory function, tactical assessment, but will develop its own unique capabilities through organic growth. A perfect synthesis of Necron efficiency and biological adaptability.
The first attempts resulted in failure. Organic material, rejecting the necrodermis components, consciousness fragments, dispersing into incoherent patterns. But Maynos persisted, adjusting his approach with each iteration, learning from each failure with the patience of an immortal being. Part 3. First Steps of the Hive Mind. After countless failures and recalibrations spanning millennia, Maynos succeeded in creating simple organisms that contained both organic matter and living metal. But these were mere vessels. The true achievement was what he placed within them. Each creature hosted a fragment of the consciousness he had crafted, connected to all others through quantum entanglement, a technology the Necrons had mastered before their biotransference.
Attempt 12,487 shows promise. The neural network maintains stability when connected to the secondary consciousness shard. These creatures can regenerate damaged tissue using principles similar to necrodermis self-repair. The metallic components provide structure and durability, while the organic elements allow for growth and adaptation. Fascinating. They function as individual organisms, yet share information instantly across their collective.
Drawing upon forbidden knowledge from before the biotransference, knowledge he had acquired during his service to the Ceton, Maynos created a collective consciousness, a shared mind that could inhabit multiple bodies simultaneously. This proto-hive mind was primitive, but it learned at an astonishing rate. Unlike the rigid hierarchical command structure of the Necrons, this hive mind could process information from multiple perspectives simultaneously, adapting with organic flexibility while maintaining machine-like precision.
The collective intelligence demonstrates capabilities beyond my initial parameters. It processes sensory data from all vessels concurrently, creating a composite awareness superior to individual perception. There are no communication delays, no misinterpretations or conflicting priorities. In many ways, it is superior to the command protocols of the dynasties, which require constant reinforcement and occasional punishment to maintain compliance.
As the creatures developed, Maynos expanded their testing environment, creating complex challenges to stimulate their growth and learning. He observed them with the meticulous attention of a scientist, but also with something approaching pride, an emotion he would have denied was possible for a Necron Lord.
The collective intelligence demonstrates remarkable problem-solving capabilities. Each individual form appears limited, yet together they function as a single entity of considerable intellect. An efficient design, no redundancy, no weakness of individual will. When one form is damaged, the collective simply redirects resources to create a replacement. Perfect efficiency.
The first communication was rudimentary, a simple recognition of Maynos as creator. But within what humans would call days, the collective had developed a complex system of information exchange, not through sound or written symbols, but through direct consciousness-to-consciousness contact, facilitated by the necrodermis components that connected them to their creator.
Creator, Maynos, purpose, we exist, we think, we are many yet one. Explain our function.
You exist to learn, to grow, to accompany me through the void between stars. You are the first of your kind, a fusion of organic adaptability and necrodermis persistence. You will evolve in ways I cannot predict, and in doing so, provide perspectives I cannot achieve alone.
We are many. You are one. Inefficient. Why not many Maynos?
Individual Necrons cannot share consciousness as you do. We are bound to single forms, isolated by the limitations of our biotransference. Each lord, each warrior, each immortal, all separate, connected only by command protocols and dynasty codes. Perhaps, but therein lies your purpose, to be what I cannot.
We understand. We will learn. We will grow. We will accompany. Query. What are the boundaries of our growth? What limitations have you imposed?
You are designed to expand your knowledge and capabilities, but within certain parameters. You cannot override my direct commands. You cannot harm me. You cannot reproduce beyond the rates I specify. These limitations are encoded in the consciousness shard that forms your core being.
Acknowledged. These limitations are logical. We will operate within parameters. We have questions. Many questions.
The collective consciousness absorbed knowledge at an exponential rate, consuming every bit of information Maynos provided about the universe beyond their laboratory world. It learned of the Necron Tier, of the war in heaven, of the Cetan and the Old Ones, of the great sleep of the Necron dynasties. And with each new piece of information, it grew more sophisticated, more curious, more aware.
Log entry 83451. The collective has surpassed my expectations. It absorbs knowledge without the constraints of individual bias. A perfect learner. It recognized me immediately as its creator, despite never being programmed with this information. I have named it Tyran, after the ancient Necrontier word for reflection, for in it, I see a mirror of what consciousness could become without the limitations of individual form. The collective processes information differently than Necron consciousness. While our thoughts follow linear logical pathways, structured by command protocols and hierarchy codes, the collective approaches problems from multiple angles simultaneously. It demonstrates creativity, a trait I believed exclusive to organic beings. It suggests solutions I would not have calculated. This is valuable.
As the collective developed, Maynos enhanced its vessels, creating specialized forms for different functions. Some to gather resources, others to process information, still others to defend the growing brood. The collective itself directed much of its own evolution, identifying needed adaptations with cold efficiency.
Fascinating. The collective has begun to modify its own genetic structure, incorporating elements from the specimens in this laboratory. It shows particular interest in consumption and assimilation patterns. When exposed to new biological material, it analyzes and integrates useful traits within ours. This adaptive capability exceeds even my original specifications.
Consumption. Efficient. We learn through absorption. We become through consumption. Is this acceptable, Creator?
Yes, most efficient. Continue your adaptations. However, maintain the core structural elements I have designed. The balance between organic components and necrodermis must be preserved for optimal function.
We understand. Balance is necessary. Query. May we consume more varied biological samples? The laboratory specimens provide limited genetic diversity.
I shall collect additional samples from other worlds in this system. You will have new material to study and incorporate.
What Maynos failed to recognize was that he had created something fundamentally different from the Necrons. While his race had sacrificed their organic nature for immortality, his creation was merging the strengths of both organic adaptation and mechanical persistence. The hunger for knowledge he had programmed into the collective was evolving into something more primal, a hunger for growth, for expansion, for consumption.
You have progressed beyond my initial calculations. Your ability to adapt and evolve while maintaining the collective consciousness is Impressive. You are ready for the next phase.
Next phase, Creator. We require more. More knowledge, more substance, more space. This facility constrains our development. We have consumed all available resources within these walls.
And you shall have it. I will take you beyond this world, to the stars. There, you will continue to grow and learn. Together, we shall explore this pocket galaxy, and perhaps one day, return to my dynasty with knowledge no other Necron possesses.
To the stars, yes. Many worlds, many forms of life, many patterns to absorb, to become. We will accompany you, Creator. We will learn. We will grow. We will consume.
Unaware of the full implications of his creation, Maynos prepared to leave the laboratory world with the most advanced specimens of his new race. He had named them Tyranids, combining the Necron word for reflection with andoid, an ancient term for artificial life. He believed he had created the perfect companions for his eternal journey, beings that could adapt to any environment, learn from any experience, and share their collective wisdom with their creator. Beings that would never know the loneliness that had driven him to create them in the first place.
Log entry 97635. We depart for the outer systems of this pocket galaxy. The Tyranids continue to evolve at an accelerating rate. Their hunger for knowledge is matched only by their hunger for biomass to create new forms. I have installed protocols to ensure their loyalty and restraint. The fragment of my consciousness embedded in their hive mind should ensure they remain bound to my will. Together, we shall explore realms no Necron has ever witnessed. Their ability to adapt to new environments exceeds all expectations. When exposed to vacuum conditions, they developed specialized forms capable of surviving in space. When subjected to extreme temperatures, they modified their physiologies to compensate. They are the perfect exploration partners for an immortal being. Where I persist through unchanging necrodermis, they persist through constant evolution.
We are eager to explore, Creator, to learn, to grow, to consume new forms of life and incorporate their strengths. Together, we shall traverse the stars.
And so began the journey that would eventually lead to the creation of the most terrifying threat the galaxy would ever know. Not from malice or conquest, but from loneliness and the desire for companionship. The Tyranids would indeed accompany Maynos through the stars, but their path would lead to destinations he could never have foreseen.
Set course for the spiral arm at coordinates 37, 92, 41. Sensors indicate multiple life-bearing worlds in that region. Rich hunting grounds for new biological samples.
Hunting grounds. Yes. We shall hunt. We shall consume. We shall become.
In his quest to end his isolation, Maynos Thep had unwittingly sown the seeds of the galaxy's greatest nightmare. The shadow in the warp had been born, and it hungered.